Greetings, guys and gals. Welcome back here. It's about that time of day again here, folks. 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday through Thursday. Welcome back to our nightly newsletter. Today is the 9th day of the 4th month of the year, April 9th, 2014. Now, as always, if you're not watching this video right now on our blog, make sure you navigate over to sidewaysmarkets.com. If you're watching this video on our YouTube page right now, be sure to click the link right below the video in the content section, in the information section below the video. And then also, too, while I've got your attention, make sure that you join our free pass in the upper left-hand corner. Click on that free ticket and let me send you an invite to attend our live trade room this afternoon as a guest, where we can talk more about what it means to be a member and the types of trades that we take here at School of Trade. Also, too, don't forget, if you'd like to get this newsletter delivered to your email inbox every evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, give us your name and your email address, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Let's get started here. Now, first things first, our schedule here for today. Oh, almost forgot. You can download all of today's content as well as the charts I'm going to talk about here in a moment. Just follow that link right there. Head over to slideshare.net and you can download all the content for today. And this is very handy for somebody who wants to have the content, the charts, next to the video so you can go over both of them in real time. In today's newsletter, we'll start out with the markets today. We had a very bullish session across the board. A little bit sluggish at the beginning, but boy, did we end up catching a bid as it went into the afternoon session. We'll talk about the news that we saw today. Crude oil inventories threw us a real curveball, but there was a very interesting aspect to that inventory report today, which really told us to expect that price to go higher. We talked about it in the trade room today, and we'll talk about it again in just a moment. We also heard from the FOMC, the meeting minutes from 2 weeks ago. Those were released today. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll also take a look at this day in history. We'll talk about NASA, a horrible tornado, and the first Securities Analysts. Pretty cool stuff this day in history. And then, of course, we got more Red Star news on the way for tomorrow. We got news in China, we got news out of Great Britain, and we got news here in the U.S. Don't go anywhere. We'll take a look at the news for tomorrow. And then we've got buying opportunities across the board going into this evening and tomorrow. Gold, E-minis, and crude oil. We'll grab a look at our charts just before we finish up today. As you guys can see, we have another exciting newsletter planned for you here this evening. Stick around, and don't forget to share this with a friend, right? They'll be thankful that you did. First of all, reflections from today. Last night on the newsletter, we gave you guys some very good opportunities to get buying, get selling. Let's take a look at them. Now, last night on the newsletter, so go back, look at last night's newsletter. If you were following along from last night's newsletter, we talked about on crude oil, we wanted to buy on crude. Now, crude never pulled all the way back, but just like we said last night, we were looking for buying opportunities with new higher highs. And if you remember in last night's newsletter, we gave you guys a target at the top of that price channel, and we're going to take a look at that in just a moment. So good, profitable trade there on crude this afternoon. On gold. Now, gold, we gave you guys the buy at 1303. We gave you guys a profit target at 1316.6. Right now, we're about 3/4 of the way to our profit target. So we are in the money on that gold trade from last night's newsletter. And of course, don't forget about that mighty mini Russell. We talked about breaking out of the trading range yesterday evening. It did break out of the trading range, allowed us to get long with that target at 1156.5. So as we sit right now, crude oil hit the target at the top of the channel. Gold still waiting to get to that target at 1316, and the Russell tags 1156.5. All three calls last night in the money or already cashed out the money. Let's keep going. Here's what happened in the markets today. Crude oil had a sluggish opening bell. Boy, was it sluggish. But we talked about this last night. We were expecting to see a little bit of sluggishness ahead of today's inventory report. Well, this was very interesting today because what happened was the inventory report came out remarkably bearish. But price tried and it couldn't fall. And after we saw price try a few times, we knew right away this was going to push higher. So those traders on the crude this morning, they shrugged off that bearish report today at 10:30 and took off to the upside. We had 174 ticks of range, which is about typical. When we get above 200 ticks, that's when we're considered to be a wide range. Closing print now above 103, 103.30, and we just shy of a full 1 percentage point higher here today on crude. On the gold, another sleepy session on gold. Now we got some good volatility out of crude, got some good volatility out of the Russell. So what's up with this, gold? Well, we know we got a couple big news reports coming out tomorrow and the following day. Gold is clearly waiting on something right now. And of course, as a trader, we really don't care what it's waiting on. We just keep our eyes peeled and keep focused on the charts because we know something big is likely coming here on gold. Only 125 ticks of range, relatively typical, but still on the narrow side. And again, a closing print today, very small move here, right? 19 basis points, 0.19%, a very small move, just incrementally higher here today on gold. So a sleepy day on gold. Mini Russell, just like crude. It was sluggish at the opening bell this morning, but that didn't last long after lunch. After we got into lunchtime session, this thing caught a bid. We had 186 ticks of range today, which is a relatively typical range. Again, once we get over 200 ticks, that's about when we start to look at this being very wide. And as you can see here, closing print today, 11.55, and we just barely made it above 1.3% gain on the Russell this morning. Now, all the equity analysts are calling this an equity correction, so we're hoping we're going to see some more higher prices here on the Russell and all the other equity indexes that we trade in our trade room. So markets today, crude and Russell pushing higher. Gold did push higher, but a relatively sleepy session. We'll take a look at some charts in just a moment. How about the news today? Now, the news today was very important. That's why you had such great activity in the afternoon session today. First of all, we began with 10:30 a.m. crude oil inventories. Now, crude oil inventories told us to be careful before the news came out this morning, which is exactly what we got. We got very sloppy and very sleepy before 10:30, but this was very interesting. Now, if you remember, last night's API number, right? Last night's API number came out with higher inventories. Now, higher inventories typically mean lower prices. Well, this morning at 10:30, we saw another sharp rise in oil imports combined with increased production, increased domestic production. That means crude oil that's pumped out of the ground in the U.S. So this led to one of the highest inventory levels we've seen in over a year. That's exactly why at 10:45 this morning, we're sitting in our trade room, we're watching the price, it wouldn't drop. And I said to everyone in the trade room, all 500 people in the trade room this morning, I said, guys, this price is going higher. Members, if you're a member of mine, rewind the tape. Go back and watch that trade room recording. We record every session for you guys to go back so that you can go back and learn. This was a huge clue on crude today. Remember what we always say. When bad news is good news and the market doesn't react poorly, you've got to be a buyer. And that's exactly what happened this morning on crude. So a very powerful clue, but it wasn't what happened. It was what didn't happen to that very bearish news report with crude oil inventories. Now, stick around because later on in tonight's newsletter, I'm going to talk about a very important news report coming out tomorrow at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Okay, stick around. Then at 2 o'clock this afternoon, this was pretty interesting. We haven't seen many meeting minutes reports that are this clear and concise and this optimistic. We had a very optimistic FOMC meeting minutes. Now remember, the FOMC meeting occurs 8 times per year, and in that meeting, they take notes. Those notes are then released to the public 2 weeks later, and you got it. This is what we saw today. So, 2 o'clock FOMC meeting. The exact statement said monetary policy is likely to be very, oh, come on. Luckily, I'm not an English teacher. That should be loose. Not lose, loose. Please excuse the grammatical error there. Monetary policy is likely to be very loose over the next few years. You know, my mom was an English teacher when I was young. She would be disappointed in me right now. So monetary policy likely to be very loose over the next few years. Plans for tapering are still on schedule. They did make a very clear point in that. Tapering plans have not changed. Now, this is why we're seeing that jump up in crude and the jump up in the E-minis. Because everyone on the FOMC panel, all the FOMC governors, they all agree that GDP was knocked down the first quarter because of that bad weather in the last quarter of last year. Everybody seems to agree that we're going to shrug off that bad weather and the next quarter's GDP should be very, very much improved. A very optimistic report coming at 2 o'clock today. So very good to see that the FOMC is exactly right about what I was thinking too. So we're right on track with what the FOMC said today. Always good to see that builds some confidence in our analysis going forward. How about this day in history? April 9th, 1720. 1720. You got to go all the way back to the London Flying Post. Now, you can't even find anything. I tried to find something on the internet for you guys. I couldn't find a single thing about the London Flying Post, right? Maybe an old vintage t-shirt. Bottom line, the earliest known publication of securities analysis. It's published in the London Flying Post, and it shows several authors discussing their views of how to calculate the value of what was the largest company at that time called the South Sea Company. Pretty interesting. And now you got guys like me who are talking about analysis all the time. Imagine 1720 opening up the newspaper and seeing the stock market being discussed, right? Heads just exploding everywhere, right? My mind explodes. Very, very cool. 1720. Let's jump up almost 200 years later. April 9th, 1947. A tornado rips through the northern part of Texas and southern Oklahoma. It grew to be more than 2 miles wide. Guys, that's a tornado 2 miles wide. All right? They don't make tornadoes that wide very often. This tornado traveled over 100 miles. Most tornadoes will not travel that far. This was a killing machine. It leveled thousands of homes, killing over 130 people in the process. April 9th, 1947. Something tells me they didn't have any of those storm chasers back then. Yeah, you get a little bit more confidence in a Hummer, bulletproof armor, right, and satellite, right? You get a little bit more confidence to chase those tornadoes. Maybe there was a couple of yahoos out there chasing after it, but they probably weren't alive to tell about it. April 9th, 1959. Now talk about cool. Talk about cool. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not waiting in line to be the first astronaut into space. I'll let some other poor soul take that maiden voyage. 7 men, all test pilots for the military. See, now that tells you right there. You got to be a little cuckoo, right, to be a test pilot. Yeah, what do you got for me, U.S.? Oh, you got a new airplane you want to test out? Sure, I'll put my helmet, my mouth guard on. I'll go up there and test it out. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I have a tough time going on a Ferris wheel. I have a tough time looking over the edge at the Empire State Building. I'm not very good with heights. I don't think being blasted into orbit would be quite for me. But this was pretty interesting. NASA introduces America's first astronauts to the public. Project Mercury was the first manned space exploration. Follow that link right here, guys. Pretty cool pictures about Project Mercury that you can see there on the web. Pretty cool stuff. You got to give a lot of credit to those guys. And of course, shortly afterwards, we were expanding our space program. April 9th, 1970. The investment firm of Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jenrette launches the first IPO of an investment fund. Hey, you know what? They figured, hey, their clients are profiting off their ideas. Why not allow their clients to buy equity in their company? This is the first time an investment firm had ever gone public and allowed somebody to give them your money to invest, but then to also buy shares of that company. Pretty interesting stuff, right? Groundbreaking there in 1970. So this day in history, got a bunch of good stuff here. This happened today, starting out at 1720. Boy, go back a while there. All right, guys, now that we know what happened today, let's get ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow, we got a bunch of Red Star news, and that Red Star news, we don't even have to wait for tomorrow. We've got the labor survey in Australia. Now, the labor survey is just like our non-farm payroll report here in the U.S. So if you're an Aussie trader, if you're a Kiwi trader, if you're trading in China or Japan or Singapore, if you're in Asia, if you're in the East, you know you've got some action coming up tonight, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, just a few hours from now. Then, tomorrow morning, this is going to be a very important report. Now, they're telling me it's going to be sometime between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. Knowing the Chinese, this could come out, boy, it could be 5 minutes from now. Who knows? But we do know that we're probably going to get that merchandise trade balance between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. tomorrow morning Eastern Time. Now, remember, the biggest industry in China is manufacturing, shipping those products through exports all around the world. This is going to be a big, important news report. Again, if you're looking for some trading opportunities overnight tonight, you got them. Then, a hop, skip, and a jump down the road at 7 a.m., we hear from the Bank of England, right? The announcement there. Now, remember, think of that like our FOMC day. So the Bank of England announcement, just like we saw the ECB announcement last Thursday, right? We have our FOMC day. Of course, in Great Britain, they're going to have the Bank of England announcement tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. All three of these are Red Star news reports. In fact, all four of them. Tomorrow morning, we got jobless claims. So right after we hear from the BOE, we're going to go right to 8:30 a.m. We got jobless claims in the U.S. As you guys know, this is also Red Star News. It's another important report tomorrow morning, and we're hoping this is going to shake things up tomorrow morning. We've had a very hard time in the U.S. getting that opening bell to make some moves because a lot of the moves have happened in the Asian and London session. So we're excited to see some news tomorrow morning, bright and early. We haven't had anything before the opening bell yet this week, have we? Monday and Tuesday had no news. Wednesday, the only news we had was 10:30 in the morning. So we're excited to see this early morning report tomorrow morning. And then this is very important, especially if you're a crude trader. Tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m., we're going to hear from our good friends over at OPEC. We've got the release of the March oil report. Okay, so be on the lookout tomorrow night for that report, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That means tomorrow afternoon, you're probably going to see crude slow down as traders and analysts await that report as it comes out at 6:30. All right, guys, now you know what's on the calendar for tomorrow. Don't say I didn't warn you. You've got yourself the calendar right here. You can go ahead and budget all your time using that. And again, you can talk more about what's in the schedule for tomorrow. Let's move forward here, taking a look at some trading opportunities for tomorrow. Let's grab some charts. First things first, we'll start with crude. Here's my VIP chart on crude oil futures, one of my favorite markets. Now, as you can see here, boy, we took off to the upside yesterday morning, kept on going, and finished again here today at the highs. But look, guys, look at this chart closely here. Yesterday morning, yeah, a little bit of sleepy, right? Catching some Z's early in the session. Same thing this morning, right? Yeah, snoring away. The first hour of the session this week has been sluggish. If it happens that way tomorrow, don't force it. We talked about that today in the trade room. We did a great job today in the trade room not forcing this thing. And boy, was our patience rewarded, because shortly after the inventory number came out, it just bam, right through the roof. And remember, that inventory number was very bearish. So that's a very big clue that the buyers are definitely here. We opened up at the highs, that's bullish. We closed at the highs, that's bullish. But whoops-a-daisy, look at the volume here. The volume is weighted towards the lows. That tells me that there was some emotional response here today, which means we're probably going to pull back here before we go higher, right? Look for that volume right around 102.55. I'm going to say 102.60. Look for that pullback on crude. So volume down near the lows. That's going to probably bring this thing back a little bit, unless, of course, these buyers continue to be aggressive here overnight. A 2-day higher relationship. We had a relatively wide range here. We'll call it typical. And, of course, I'm looking tomorrow morning, opening print above the high, 103.77. I'm looking to buy. Opening print below the low of 102.37. I'm looking to be a seller. If we open up inside the range tomorrow morning, I'm looking for closing prices above the highs to begin buying, closing prices below the lows to begin selling. All right, don't be surprised, though, if we pull back here. 2 days in a row, straight up, as you can see here, get a lot of effort being put forth for the buyers. People are bound to take some profit here, so be ready for a pullback. And if there's anything here that tells us that pullback is more likely, here we go. We've been watching this chart, been watching this 100 area for the past, it seems like forever, and now we've finally broken up to that 103. Remember, I gave you guys this number last night. So if you were wondering this morning or this afternoon, I should say, if you were wondering how far is this crude going to push, it was very easy for us to see 103. So 103 was an easy giveaway as far as where they were going to try to buy it up to. Now, this is a very important area. We've got that important crude oil report tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. So don't be surprised if we sit sideways here. In all reality, I always prepare for all three scenarios. Scenario 1 is we drop. Scenario 2 is that we keep pushing higher. And scenario 3 is that we keep going sideways. If we keep going sideways tomorrow, we'll clearly be waiting for that oil report at 6:30. So buy lows and sell highs. If we collapse and go lower tomorrow, we will definitely be looking for short selling opportunities, and we're going to use that $100 a barrel as a target. If we go higher, I'm not sure how far we're going to get here, but I got 104.75 if we go higher, right? 104.75 is that next swing level overhead. And then you got 107.30. I doubt we see 107.30 tomorrow, but I'd be lying to you if I said it couldn't happen. This is crude we're talking about. So most likely, though, we'll get up to that 104.75 if we're pushing higher. If we go lower, I want to take us back to 100. And if we end up going sideways, I'll buy lows and sell highs as it goes sideways. Moving forward here, you can see here on our 16 anchor, we have a very strong bullish channel. As you can see, the bullish channel here. And unfortunately here, we're at the highs. Now, this high, if you recall last night, this was the target that we gave you guys in last night's newsletter. So mission accomplished by the buyers. Now, you've probably heard me say this before. Trading at the highs of a bull channel, just like trading at the lows of a bear channel, are notorious for being one of the more challenging areas on the chart. So if we try to go higher here, it's going to be a little bit tough unless those buyers are really strong. So we'll be watching price action to see. My best bet, though, right now is rather than trying to force trades at the highs, you know me. I don't want to buy something at a premium. I want to buy it at a discounted price. I'm going to wait for price to come back to 102.90, 102.40, 101.85, and possibly, I don't think we're going to get here to 100.74, but that would really be the best opportunity here, would be buying this 100.75 area. That would be just ideal, because then I'm buying at the lows of this bull channel, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered. So easy pullbacks here, and we're going to use these levels below us. Again, 0290, 0240, 0185, and 74, right? 174. And then we got targets up top here. 104.21 and 105.65. Now, please remember, guys, the top of this channel is no joke, so you've got to use that as a target. I'm expecting this, though, to be able to hit that 104.21 before it runs into the high of this channel. But just remember, if you find yourself going to the highs of that channel, take your profit there, and then use the 104.21 as your next target. All right? So it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act there depending on where the high of that channel shows up on our charts, either overnight or tomorrow morning. All right? So keep your eyes peeled on that. That wraps up for crude. Now, gold. Moving from the black gold to the yellow gold, right? That funny yellow metal we call gold. Once again, keep an eye on the previous week's highs. We talked about this last night. The prior week high is clearly the turning point here right now. So keep a close eye on that prior week high just below 1307. Now, looking at the VIP chart, we've got a huge range last Friday. But clearly, last Friday's non-farm payroll number, combined with the comments from Janet Yellen on Friday afternoon and Monday morning, these comments are clearly confusing the gold traders. I mean, incredible. We saw a very narrow range, then a gap up, then a gap back down. Now, what's happening? What's causing this oddball price action? Well, what's happening is there is a big deal happening right now in the ECB, right? That's Europe's version of our FOMC, right? So the ECB, the European Central Bank, just like our Federal Reserve Bank in the United States, they have a lot going on right now. And what's happening is with all of the new stuff coming on the table in the ECB, we've got Greece going back into the bond auctions. They're talking about deflation. There's all kinds of stuff that's hitting the fan right now in the ECB as they try to sort things out. Well, what's causing this is a lot of the stuff they're talking about is affecting currencies. And currencies, of course, a flight to safety takes gold and bonds. So gold is going to be affected by the ECB dramatically. What's happening now is that we're seeing the move happening before the U.S. markets open. So by the time that we wake up at 8:20 in the morning when the gold opening bell rings, the market's already moved. So if you're trading gold right now, all the fun is being had in the Asian and London sessions. So if you watch between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m., that's when the best moves are happening on gold. This will not continue forever, but temporarily though, that's why you're seeing these big gaps up and big gaps down. We're very neutral right now, right? Neutral. We got a 2-day resistance bearish, but it's back and forth right now. The best way to trade gold right now, if you're trading the U.S. session, is to buy those lows and sell those highs. If you can get up early and trade those moves happening in the European session between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. Now, again, you can see here on gold, we continue. Is this the same chart from yesterday? No, I swear. It's not the same one from yesterday. You can see the date on it. It's the 9th. But the reality is we continue to be stuck between two key moving averages, right? I get the 1320, I get the 1302. So we're stuck. We're stuck right in the mud right now. Something's got to give here on gold. Moving forward, though, if you're looking for buying opportunities on gold, even though we've had a relatively sluggish week here so far after last week's non-farm payroll report, we can clearly see this bullish channel. So even though it has been, look at how sloppy it's been, right? You got a base, you get a rally, you get a base. You get a rally, you get a base, right? So what's happening is we're going 100 up, 50 back. 100 up, 75 back, right? 100 up, 80 back. And it's causing this, you're getting higher highs, you're getting higher lows. It's making for some pretty sloppy price action. But if you know where to be looking, we had buying opportunities this morning at 1308.3 and 1304.2. That means as of right now, we are on our way higher. I have a target overhead at the high of the channel, just as we talked about on crude, and then I got 1320 and 1325. So if you missed the opportunity here earlier at 1308, you're free now to be buying with wave patterns on the way up, or as you can imagine, the ideal scenario will be to get into a buy here at 1304, right? That will be the ideal, because then you're going to be in right at the low of that bull channel. This is a great example this morning on gold. In our trade room this morning on gold, we found the gold sitting right here. And remember what we talked about this morning, guys? This morning in the trade room, we said, nah, it's going to be difficult to sell short here, right? Let's wait for it to go higher and then get us in. That's exactly what we talked about this morning in our live trade room. Members, go log into your course. Go log into your account. Check the recording from today. It's all there for you. So gold's got some targets. Gold gave you a buying opportunity early this afternoon. You still get a chance to get on this one here now with a target up top there at 1318, 1320, and 1325. Moving forward here now to the Russell, the mighty mini Russell. Now remember, we have been dealing with this 48 hours of back and forth after the non-farm payroll report came out last Friday and just collapsed, right? These equities got clobbered on Friday afternoon because, again, non-farm payrolls was last Friday. It was a very disappointing jobs report. Then, of course, we get below the prior week low, and we stayed there for the first 2 days of the week. Monday was down, Tuesday was up. Even though we had very big ranges on Monday and Tuesday, it was still contained inside of that range. If you remember last night, we talked about that range breakout. Get that range breakout, and we gave you guys some targets overhead that were easily achieved today. So doing well on our newsletter trade calls this week so far. Price action's been a little bit slippery, but so far so good. Now you see we finally break out of that range. Once again, take a look at the chart. We're still getting, the first hour of the session is still sticking around. It's still a little bit sluggish. So if you're a student of mine, if you're a member of our trade room, you've been wondering what's happening that first hour, that first 45 minutes of the day. tough to tell exactly what's happening on the Russell right now, but clearly we need to pick up on this kind of pattern that we're seeing. The first hour of the session definitely taking some time to get warmed up, but boy, do we get rewarded for our patience with a very bullish open, a bullish close, volume towards the middle, so not totally bullish. Right, we got volume at the highs, we got volume at the lows, so pretty balanced as far as the volume goes. You know what I'm looking for, though. Tomorrow morning, opening print above the high of 57.4, I'm looking to get long. Opening print below the low at 39.4, I'm looking to get short. Be very careful tomorrow if we end up getting stuck in the mud around this prior week low at 1144.7. That prior week low is going to be a definite price magnet if these buyers don't have the cojones to push this thing higher. And remember, we've been talking about these prior week highs and lows. Don't say I didn't warn you, boys and girls. 1190.4. If we catch a bid tomorrow morning, if these buyers get some ants in their pants, we're going to get this thing all the way up to 1190.4. Right? We can go all the way back up. Don't believe me? Look at the range on Friday. You don't think we can cut that range in half? Absolutely we can. So if you see us buying here, if the buyers are strong tomorrow morning, you know what we're going for, 1190.4. Now, moving forward here for the Russell. Not so fast, buyers. It doesn't look like those buyers are going to have as easy of a time as we thought they were. Now the record, right? Now the record skips. Now the buyers have a little bit of a challenge. You can see we got this bearish channel here. We came off the lows of that bear channel right into a sell zone here at 1158.2. So here's what we have to do tomorrow morning. We have to be watching closely, boys and girls, at this 1165 to 1158. If we see it reverse and go lower, well, then we know we're looking for shorts. But if it just pushes right through, and tomorrow morning in my trade room, we'll be watching volume, I'll be reading tape, we'll be watching the personality. If it pushes right through that 58.2 like nobody's business, if it looks tomorrow morning like it did this afternoon, we know that it's going to run right through this sell zone, and our next target is going to be up at 1177. All right, 1177. Now, what was that VIP? 1190, right? So you got 1190, which puts us right back up here. So if we torch through this first sell zone, we're gunning for that 1177, 1183.6. So a lot riding tomorrow morning. Are they going to react bearishly at this sell zone? If they are, we're going to sell it short. But if they torch right through it, we're going to be buying up to that 77, up to the 83.6, and we got 91.1 as that last swing high from last Thursday afternoon. Moving forward, guys, the last chart of the newsletter for this evening. If you were looking for buying opportunities, look no further here on this Russell. Now we got buying opportunities here on the Russell. Remember, we got that 58.3, so it's going to be a little bit of an obstacle to get to that buyer's target. I got buy zones here at 53.6, 51.5, 48.3, and 43.2. Now, obviously, I would much rather buy way down here, but I'm going to be looking for buying opportunities as we pull back here tonight on the Russell. Remember, though, if we go to that 58, remember that previous chart, 58.2, if we do not pull back, if we go right to 58.2 and then react by collapsing, be very careful. Be very careful with these two zones. All right, these are the ones I'm looking for if we see it go right to 58.2. Now, if it pulls back right now, though, before it gets to 58.2, you better believe it. We want to be looking for those buys because you know those buyers are going to be hunting for that 58.2. All right, 58.2, 59.7, and 62.4 are my targets here overhead. Don't forget that 1190, right? That 1190 is that previous week high. If you can catch a big runner up there, be patient for that target. All righty, so we got everything we need here for tomorrow. Once again, guys, don't forget, head over to sidewaysmarkets.com, download a copy of all of tonight's charts. Right from slideshare.net, you can go right to our blog here at Sideways Markets, follow that hyperlink, and you can go right over to our SlideShare account and download all of tonight's charts. And of course, while I got your attention, guys, don't forget, jump over to schooloftrade.com. Go ahead and register for our free trial. We have one of the most in-depth free trials in the industry. It's no wonder. We've been teaching and trading for over 10 years here at School of Trade. We are the industry standard when it comes to learning and earning on the web. Check out our free trial, check out our 3 course levels, and don't forget to share tonight's newsletter with a friend. I want to thank you guys for being here this evening. Thank you so much for all your support, all your great feedback. Don't forget, I always want to make this better for you. What do you love? What do you hate? Give me some feedback. Post me a comment below the video. And don't forget to see me on Twitter, Facebook, and whatever social media platform they invent next. Guys and gals, have a great weekend. Great weekend. Wishful thinking, right? Have a great evening, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time in our live trade room, and tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. for tomorrow's nightly newsletter. Make sure you learn it so you can earn it. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.